And I'm very happy to be here and able to present. Let me just share my screen. So, hi, everybody. I'm Meighan Brodkey. I am a technical architect and Salesforce MVP. I have been in the Salesforce ecosystem now for over 13 years in one way or another. I began as a customer success manager out of college, working for Salesforce, then worked my way to an administrator, then developer, and then TA. And now I actually run the architecture team at a small consulting firm here in the US called Exceed Consulting Group. And you'll see me online all the time talking about communities. Community Cloud is my specialty and my favorite cloud. I have participated in building and designing over 50 communities over the past few years since Lightning came out. And if there is something about communities I can learn, I absolutely love learning it. Um, so to get started, and also look for me on Twitter and on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you. And then I also run a Slack workspace called Ohana Slack, where you can get 24-hour help on Salesforce from others in the community. And you can find me in the Community Cloud channel most days in there. So we'll be going over communities, licensing and security, the experience builder, um, tips on search, as well as CMS and the different types of CMS out there, including CMS Connect with a focus there. CMS Connect is a great way to display external content within Salesforce. And then community use cases. And we'll also touch on community deployments before moving on to Q&A. So what are communities, first of all? So communities are a way to extend your brand, your data, your people to your partners and to your customers. You can help your end users that are external, such as partners and customers, go for self-service instead of reaching out to customer service. You can expose a knowledge base. They are not just mobile friendly, but mobile responsive for the out-of-the-box components and for most custom components for Lightning. And they're a great way to just interact with those that are the most familiar and using your brand to help build your own community like Salesforce did. When you think about how Salesforce was able to pull everyone together that uses their product, think about how I'm here in Seattle. We have some of you are in India, some of you are in the US and other places, some of you are in other countries. Salesforce was able to do that by developing a community. And it all started with an online community. And it grew into a face-to-face community with events. And then eventually, it became a community that was far more than ever expected. And to me, that is what a community is. And to Salesforce, it's a way to connect and to help your users, such as partners and customers. So licensing. Licensing is a fun part of the community's experience cloud. So there are different licenses available that expose different objects, and we're going to go over what those differences are, and then also touch on sharing. So there are 4 main types of licenses in communities. You have your partner, your guest, your customer community, and your customer community plus. And then you also have this concept of seat versus login. There are a few other licenses you can use with communities in addition to the fact that your end users get access as well that are internal, such as platform licenses, Lightning App Plus, and Lightning App Starter. But the main licenses you're going to end up using are those customer community plus, partner and guest. The guest is for when you have a totally unauthenticated community that does not require login. Your customer community is your lowest level. And that has the ability to log in, but it does not have access to reports. It's made for high volume. So if you have millions of users, and it has some additional limits that go along with those licenses that relate to things such as libraries. There's also your Customer Community Plus, which is a step up from your customer community. You now have access to your reports. You now have the ability to do Apex sharing. You now have access to sharing rules. You can now have a delegated account manager that is external. But the one thing you don't have when you have a customer license is access to sales objects. That comes when you switch to a partner license. And that partner license gets you access to leads, opportunities, quotes, and the other items that you would need as a partner to manage others within the environment. Now, the idea of seats versus logins. So you have a customer community and a customer community plus and a partner. But you can get these as seat or you can get them as a login license. What exactly does that mean? So for a seat, think of that how you and I log into Salesforce. One license, one person. A login license gives you the ability to create additional usernames, but it's not one username per license. Instead, it is based on how frequently that person logs in, and it's actually counting the number of logins they do, and you have X number of logins per what you buy versus a number of users. So if you have users that will log in infrequently, think about doing login licenses. If some will be infrequent, others will be frequent, think about doing a mix and match of your licenses. So this diagram here just kind of highlights some of those items that we were just talking about. You'll notice your knowledge articles, cases, high volume is with customer community. You get to reports, dashboards, delegated admin, and sharing rules when you go to that customer community plus. And then MDF is market development funds, which is the ability to do some of your market budget funds that you give out to your partners and managing that within Salesforce. That comes automatically with the partner licenses. Channel sales, that's the ability to group your partners similar to what Salesforce does into gold, silver, bronze, or any way you'd like to. Then you have leads and opportunities. And you'll notice that Customer Community Plus and Partner, these are both flagged as what you would use with B2B. Customer Community, made for high volume, is more of a B2C license. So how do you share with each one of these different groups within your community? So you have a few different options. Recently, Salesforce allowed for every single license type to have access to sharing sets. What are sharing sets? Oh my gosh, they are the absolute best way to share out there. So when you kind of think about how sharing takes time and sharing has to run, and it's kind of a toll on the system. With a sharing set, it's not storing all that data. It's not running that like crazy, and it's not heavy. What it does is it takes a value off of the user, be it the account or the contact, and then it compares that to either an account field or a contact field on the record you're looking at. And if they match, the record is visible. If they don't match, the record is not visible. So kind of think about it like a fancy formula. Then you have your sharing rules. These are limited and you should use them in limited fashion. If at all possible, try to use sharing sets. There are times when you need sharing rules. When you use sharing rules, try to think about the best way to put them together. For example, with groups, rather than listing out every single role or profile, and then putting the community users into those groups based on hierarchy down or any other combination that you can work with. For example, if you have to share data based on a country code, base a public group on these are the users from that country, and then I will share with that public group. Account relationship sharing. And sharing rules and account relationship sharing both work with Customer Community Plus and Partner. Account relationship sharing is like a sharing set that is scooped up and has gone through all of its training and has superpowers now. It uses the account or the user to match, but you can also add in criteria. So let's say that you no longer want to share this data for a property after someone's lease is done so that they can't find out about a property that somebody else moves into. That would be a great use for an account relationship working with real estate companies. Channel programs are only available for partner users. And like I said, these are the ones where you come up with your own division of how to divide up your partners. You can use this in junction with the partner scorecard and have it so users can move up from tier to tier. And you can set up automation to move them up those tiers as well using that partner scorecard. It's pretty easy to do. I have a blog post on that concept on my website. So if you want to find out more about the channel programs and how to use those, feel free to check that out. I'll make sure to share that link at the end of the session. And then you have Apex sharing. Now, everybody knows that we should think about Apex last and try to go declarative first. Sharing sets should always be your go-to choice first to see if you can use them. Then try to see if you can use account relationship or sharing rules for sharing. And then last, go to Apex. The reason why is because Apex sharing, is always a pain. It's even worse on standard objects for you developers that have tried to work with it, since you can't put an Apex share reason on a standard object. And it just gets messy. It's also harder to manage and configure as the end user to try to figure out how do we change this? How do we make updates? How does it grow with us? And Apex sharing, again, Customer Community Plus and Partner channel program is the only one that is partner only. All right. So you've probably seen that sharing pyramid that goes along with standard Salesforce. This is somewhat of that sharing pyramid rearranged for communities. You'll notice your profiles and your permission sets are outside of the pyramid. If you don't have access to the object with either a profile or a perm set, you will never access that object. You have to have that checked somewhere. Then you have your org-wide default. That's your base of everything in Salesforce, followed by role hierarchy. And in Salesforce, when it comes to communities, the best practice is to try to find ways to keep your role hierarchy at one role for your community. It's going to run better and have far better performance across the board if you have one role. If you need to share data, think about using a power user instead of going with the multiple roles in the hierarchy. Then look at sharing sets, sharing rules, account relationships, Apex sharing, and manual sharing. And that's how things open up versus how things get more precise. And again, this is just somewhat of a foundation for your visibility. Profiles and perm sets will have restrictions on them based on the license type selected. Your org-wide default for external sharing should always be private. There's just too many possibilities for your data being exposed. Go private and then open up visibility. And then again, your license restrictions. Licenses are also going to prevent you from having some of your options for what is visible and how you can open it up, not only on the profiles and perm sets, but for what you have available to share with. So if you can't find something, think about your license and go and double check what is available. Next up, we're going to talk about the experience builder. What is the builder? What are the differences between templates, themes, and components? And where can you get stuff that is super cool and awesome for your community? First of all, you have your template, which is kind of your foundation for the community. And it decides what components are available. There is a chart inside help and training that tells you what are the components available in each template. That is because your template decides what is it that you can build with. I remember back when they first came out, there were so many components that didn't exist across the templates. The only way to ever get topics would be to go with the customer service, aka Napili template. And so it was very popular to go with that across the board. And so a lot of communities had the same look. Salesforce has done some fantastic work expanding their templates and expanding the functionality with them. But always check what are the components and the functionality available with your template before you choose it. Then there's your theme. Your theme is merely your skin on your community. It does nothing but give it a pretty UI and allow you to change how it looks. This can be out of the box. You can build this yourself, or you can install the theme. And then you have the option for your components. And your components, those are little pieces of functionality, be it out of the box or installed or something you build, that allows you to drag and drop that component onto the screen. And from there, you can have either a record detail or a hierarchy component. Perhaps you want to be able to have your flow run on the screen and you have a flow component. Each one of those little pieces that you drag onto the screen, that's the component. And you drag it on based on the fact that it's available in your template. And the reason this is pretty cool is because it all comes together with your bolts. Now, bolts can be pages, they can be themes, they can be templates, and they can be packaged up for reuse. And the only time you should be packaging your community for a deployment is if you are going to be reusing it. If you are packaging your community because you are struggling with a deployment, unless you plan to reuse that community, it is not a good idea to package it. You can run into issues with upgrades and with other items in the future by packaging it, if not deploying it, and going about it with multiple upgrades that way. So I highly recommend for your deployment, unless you are doing a bolt, don't try to make a bolt. Bolts are available on the App Exchange, or you can get them off of partner sites. And one thing to keep in mind is you have you have your default pages, but you don't get any variations. If you don't have a default set, you won't have a page for that object. If you have multi-language, your multi-language will not be included. And if you have audience-based criteria and you package it up as a bolt, that audience-based criteria will not be included. So some things to think about if you're planning on packaging. Those items all go away and you would be responsible for finding another way to get them into your package. But another advantage is the fact that you can add your flows in. So let's say you had a Lightning scheduler community. That would be a way to package, put it on the App Exchange, have your branded look, as well as have that Lightning scheduler flow available all ready to install. So the search page. So if you've worked with communities before, one thing you may have noticed is the search page, you need to set it up. It does not have options besides knowledge and discussions unless you add them. And I highly recommend thinking about what to add before just adding everything that you use to build. Is it actually something that they need to be searching for? Should it be searchable? Also, when setting up your search, you have two different components. Make sure you have the global search component. This allows you to add any components you want to that page. In addition, you can create multiple page variations for search. For example, if you want guests to have different items available. And then you can also customize your search bar to have autocomplete, which can be extremely handy for your end users. Think about how often you use that with either Google or your Salesforce instance as well. All right. So when it comes to out of the box, so if you want to have some of the more regularly used components, those are in the customer service template. And then you can take that template and make it more unique by using a custom theme. That theme, again, is just a custom skin. And this is totally going to date me, but if any of you used Winamp back in the day, so we're talking late 90s, if you were playing on your Windows machine and listening to your Napster, with a Winamp, you could always throw your cool skins and have it unique to you. Mine always had Hanson, because that's just the band I thought was the bee's knees. And that's exactly what your theme is. It's like the wallpaper on your phone. It does absolutely nothing powers-wise. It can have hero units that customize headers, and it's the only thing is it's all about look. Those aren't true components, and they can't be dragged around the page. They're just there for UI. And then also you have different branding settings within your community. And when you switch your theme, you may lose your branding options. So know what you're picking, try it out before you swap it, etc. And then your custom components. These can help you solve anything that you don't get out of the box. And I highly recommend if you're trying to build a community for a business, you're probably going to need to have at least a few custom components. Custom themes and custom templates help you get that pixel perfect look. And then global actions, they kind of run the world of Lightning communities. They are how you often create your records, but one gotcha is they don't fire assignment rules. So you'll need to have something on the back end to get those to fire. And then to talk about CMS. So there are a few different types of CMS for Salesforce. So we'll go over what is CMS, how can you use it, and what are the benefits. So there's native CMS. These records are made within Salesforce under the tab called CMS Home. If you cannot see this tab, you probably need to assign yourself a permission set to see the CMS tabs. This is great for exposing info such as announcements, banners, images off to the side, any sort of links or news. And It's great for having an approval process to post information. It can be shared not only in one community, but across your communities. And you can organize it using different collections and different topics for better searchability. The other type of CMS is Salesforce CRM CMS. Now, what this does is it lets you access Salesforce data. Native CMS, you write up the article, and then CRM CMS, you take advantage of a list view. So you select which object you want to use and which list view to use, and make sure you have a URL for an image in the list view you are using or an image itself. And then you can use that to display your existing records in a more visual manner. A great example is a product catalog, or to have a list view of contacts on the account and to have like a list of members with their faces on there. Get creative, see what you can do with your data and images of your data. Then there's my favorite, CMS Connect. So I have truly fallen in love with CMS Connect and how awesome it is. You can connect outside of Salesforce and bring in your feed. Now, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So I remember before this came out, I had done a project to connect Adobe AEM to Salesforce. We did a 6-month project that was supposed to be originally 6 weeks, so it got extended. And then about 3 months later, we had to add a whole nother library. So it got extended even once more. And it ended up being about a year to get all of their Adobe AEM content integrated. Once CMS Connect came out, all you have to do is enter your credentials and the path to your content, and you're done. Under 5 minutes, the integration would have been done. Mind-blowing to me, just how exciting and how much more connected Salesforce is becoming to other systems. And you don't have to be Adobe AEM. You can also connect to WordPress, to Drupal, to Sitecore, to any other system that you are able to. There's an option for that custom, which means you can try to connect to anything. And then how would you use communities? How are others using them? So for communities, some of the use cases are self-service. So if you have your customer base and you want them to either be able to help themselves with getting support or to help themselves with sales, that would be a great use case for communities. You could do e-commerce, or you could just have them put in orders that your team processes. You could have a knowledge base for your partners, for your customers, or for guests. You post your knowledge base. You could have collaboration across your customers and partners. You could have internal social media. You could have your supply chain, such as field service lightning. So this is a great one. I love this one. So I have gone before to work on a community with field service lightning integration. And it has been so much fun just to see how well they fit together. And now they have the ability for your community to hold the scheduling and the dispatch, even more exciting, so that it doesn't have to be internal. And then you can also have an internal employee collaboration space, either for replacing your intranet or for internal HR, or just to have your employees connect with each other. Who's good at what? What are you doing? Track your projects. So if anybody knows Harley-Davidson motorcycles, their rider school, if you want to learn how to ride a motorcycle, uses the Salesforce community. Pretty much anything can be on a Salesforce community. from learning to ride a motorcycle to getting your cable installed. Pretty exciting. And then before I get to questions, and I know I didn't have a slide for this one, but I mentioned I want to talk about deployments. So one thing Salesforce has done recently is they came out with the Experience Bundle API. And this allows you to deploy, and you can actually save to your source control what each page looks like. And this would be the text on the pages, the components referenced, all of that metadata is now available to be saved in your source control via the Experience Bundle item versus using the site.com. I highly recommend trying it if you're going to be deployed versus doing network custom site.com, just because it's better for you, better for your builders, and it's the way Salesforce is going with deployments. So just a small little tip there. And I see we have some questions. All right. So we have can you use the partner and customer at the same time? Absolutely. So you can create a community with any combination of licenses that you want. You can have part of it be unauthenticated end users that are logging in that are customer community plus, and that are partner. It can be any type of combination that you would like. And then other questions? And other tips for deployments would be to make sure that you have written down all of your manual steps. There are a lot of manual steps that still go with communities. So make sure you have those documented before you deploy. I have a template that I use that I can share out. It's kind of a jump start that I share with a number of people in the community. It just helps me get going every time so I don't have to keep rewriting it from scratch.
Meighan, hi, this is Ritvik. I really want to ask this one thing. You already actually covered the deployment thing. As you said, that Experience Bundle API is something that can help. So is this something Salesforce native? And apart from that, you also mentioned Bolt. So I didn't actually quite get it. Is that Bolt thing also used for deploying communities when it comes to, I mean, I've done deploying the components, some components, but I've never deployed community as a whole. So how can you, I mean, share some insights that are really helpful?
Yeah, so the process to deploy communities is pretty roundabout. So if you're doing your first deployment, you actually have to deploy all your metadata first, then go and create a community in the sandbox or environment if it's production that you're going to deploy to. And then it has to be the exact same name as the community in your source environment. From there, you can then select in your the org that you're deploying from, your network, your custom site, and if you're deploying with change sets, your site.com. And if you're deploying with the command line or with a tool, you can select the experience bundle, and then you can use that to deploy over. But it takes 3 files to deploy a community, and you have to create your shell community first before you can deploy it. It's kind of a pain. And there are some steps that have to be done every single time when you deploy, because they never come over and they always reset, which kind of is annoying. But
Yeah.
due to the fact your community doesn't go live until you hit publish
Yeah.
in the new org, you're kind of given that grace time to get those items finished up and fixed. Just make sure that they're pretty obvious too. One that got me last time though was it looked like my navigation was right, but behind the navigation, the links weren't right. So make sure to always check your navigation.
Yes. And the bolt thing that you mentioned is also related to the deployment.
So yeah, if you're going to be reusing, then use a bolt, and you can also get a jump start on building with a bolt. But I wouldn't go to production with a bolt unless you're reusing that template to multiple environments and plan to go like to the App Exchange or to other customers as a partner.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
one more I would I would love to ask one more. So there's this thing like when we are displaying something like error or something. So most of the times there are requirements like language conversion. For example, the same content should be displayed in based on the region it is being displayed onto. Like for France, it should be displayed in France. So it's something standard that is covered for community, because usually we take advantage of custom label for that.
So yeah, there are a couple of different options. Let me quick show you in my dev org here what you can do for inside a community. So you actually
Meighan, you got mute, I guess. Is that a glitch, guys? Can you hear me?
No, guys, she will be there in a moment.
Oh, okay.
And I just want to welcome Shibu as well, who joined our session. Thank you, Shibu, for connecting over here.
Hey, Vipul.
How are you?
Good, good. How are you guys?
We are good. Thank you so much for attending the session, and hope we'll be having you as a speaker in upcoming sessions for sure. I'll be. I was talking to Parth about you to have you as a session about marketing cloud and all. So here you are, and hope to have you soon.
Hopefully, yes. Yeah. Thank you.